what business owners make, I don't know. I think the number one is finding an advisor. I think less the mistakes that they'd make when they're selling it. It's more having a company that's ready to sell. And there's a few keys that we hear from buyers all the time because we're working with them. There's a few keys that just are universal. And one of them, and I'm sure you've talked about this on the podcast before, the first one is customer concentration. If you've got one big customer, you're not going to get the value that you're hoping. So if you have a good way to diversify, you should be thinking about that. The other one is that I don't think does anybody any justice is the whole idea of seller's discretionary earning or adjusted EBITDA. You'll hear this a lot as a term in the marketplace. But if I were, and we did do this very early on with the companies that we had, all of your personal spending, those sorts of things, the things that you're running through your company, maybe as a smaller, start to put them into a holding company, get paid correctly, get paid what you should as the CEO. Don't use your company as a piggy bank, and start to get the finances more aligned. When you think about a buyer who's going to be buying something versus what you're doing, imagine what you're doing today is kind of like the Japanese subway map. If you've ever been in the Japanese subway, it looks like a bunch of spaghetti. Once you figure it out, it's okay. But if you can start to straighten out those strings with a good accountant or whatever to try and match what the buyer's going to be looking at, and any accountant knows that, where your strings start to match their strings, then everything gets a little bit easier, and it's really hard for a buyer to contest information and bring down your price if you've got it all sort of lined up with what they're looking already. And the third, so that was the second thing, was the accounting strings. The third thing is, for any CEO or founder, I would say delegate, delegate, delegate. Figure out how to get yourself out of the day-to-day and not be the generating engine within your company, because quite frankly, that's if you're the linchpin, you're going to either not be able to sell it, or you're not going to be able to get the value that you're hoping for. And also, quite frankly, it's good for a founder to be working strategically instead of tactically, because your company will grow much faster once you're not responsible for anything.
Limiting that key man risk